Okay, in this video, we're going to be using trig to find angles of elevation or depression in a word problem. And again, what's really nice here is they're going to give you the picture of what's going on, which is like half the battle, so it's really kind of not that bad. It says in this problem you have a 15-foot ladder that leans against the side of a house. So here's the ladder leaning against the side of the house. They labeled it already for you as 15. The top of the ladder is 13 feet off the ground, so they know the distance from here to here is 13. Find x, the angle of elevation of the ladder, round to the nearest tenth. So the angle of elevation is right here, angle of elevation, which is always the angle formed from a horizontal line of sight looking upwards. So that's our angle of elevation, and we have to find the angle. Now, I would still set this up just like if I were finding a side length. If this is my angle I want to find, this is the hypotenuse, this is the opposite, this is the adjacent. Now I know the opposite and I know the hypotenuse. So when choosing my trig function, I'm thinking, okay, if I'm using so, ka, or am I going to use toa? So here I have the opposite and the hypotenuse. The only trig function that uses opposite and hypotenuse is the sine function. So I would set this up to be the sine of the angle x, which I don't know, would be opposite, 13, over the hypotenuse, 15. So in order to find the angle, we have to take the inverse sine of both sides. So when you take the inverse sine of the sine of x, and you take, let me just move this over a little bit, if you take the inverse sine of 13, 15, so it would look like that. Now the inverse sine of the sine of x just gives x. That's kind of the point. And we have to just type in the inverse sine of 13 over 15 into the calculator and round to the nearest tenth of a degree. So using your Alex calculator, I'm just hitting second sine to bring up inverse sine, and then typing in the fraction 13 over 15, closing out my parentheses, and to the nearest tenth of a degree, that's 60.1 degrees for that angle of elevation. I'll show you one more real quick one where there's an angle of depression. It says find x, the angle of depression from the top of a lighthouse that is 150 feet above water to the water line of a ship 135 feet offshore. Around your answer to the nearest tenth. So here again, they make it easy because you can see the angle of depression right here. Angle of depression is from the horizontal line of sight looking downwards. So this right here is the angle of depression. Okay, so if that's my angle of depression, the hypotenuse of the triangle is here, my opposite is there, my adjacent is there. So when I'm choosing so, ka, or toa, I want to use the one that's got O and A, which is the tangent. So I'm going to set this one up to be the tangent of the angle x is the opposite, 150, over the adjacent, 1035. And so I have to take the inverse tangent of 150 over 1035 to get my angle x. So I'm going to hit second tan to bring up the inverse tangent, and then just put 150 over 1035, and that turns out to be 8.2 degrees. I hope this video helps you conquer the using trig to find angles of elevation or depression in a word problem. Thanks for watching.